guys, welcome back to the Kings of Scream podcast. I'm Daniel.
I'm Tyler.
And guys, we got a treat for you. I mean, it's October.
It's
the
tradition,
season's changing.
right?
It really is. I mean, literally, I just love this time of year. I love the smell. There's a different smell in the air. I can't explain it. It's there. You can just tell. Fuck the calendar. Fuck the calendar. I don't care what the calendar says. There's a certain time in September where you just go outside and you go, oh shit, it's fall. Like it is fall, and I love it.
It's the smell. It's the smell of death.
It really is. It's nature dying around us,
Yep.
but its death is it's like seasonal Jesus, and it dies for our sins, and it's
Opens
happy
up to a really nice, bright view of scary movie.
until it goes into the harsh, cold grip of winter, and then it's all downhill from there. But anyways, since it is the month of October, we thought it was only fitting to review. What are we reviewing again, Tyler?
No, we're going back to 1978. Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween.
The original, the OG.
And that was her first gig.
Yeah.
Yep, that was her.
That's it.
So she thought she was going to get fired the first day.
Really?
Yes.
Did not know that.
It showed a interview with her, and she was worried that they were going to call her at the end of the day and tell her that she's fired. And then she turns into a legend.
Oh, yeah. No, like, absolutely. She, one of the things where I could say, like, in a certain sense, she kind of outgrew the franchise, but she always comes back. So it's like,
She
clearly,
paid her respects.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing I hear in real life. She is just the sweetest woman. She goes to all these horror conventions. I guess for a while she kind of stayed away from the horror conventions, but when she finally did start going, it's like she returns from time to time and does it and everything. So she really knows that there's, even though she's famous for, tons of other stuff, like there is a community of horror fans that just adore her, and she knows where her bread and butter's at. So hitting it up right here.
She's one of the strongest main actors to ever be.
Absolutely.
In a horror movie.
Well, not that. Yeah, I would say just as far as final women or final girls go, I mean, she's at the top of the list, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, in all honesty. I mean, of course, now, people's personal preferences or whatever, you can have your favorites. I'm not saying, it's in stone. I'm just saying, in all reality, she was the prototype for the final girl. I mean, it really is, So, we're going back to 1978.
Yep.
I
heard that was a good year.
I hear good things. I mean, it had good movies.
Certainly had excellent movies.
Young Michael Myers goes a little kill happy when he's a kid and gets put into a sanitarium.
Yep.
Where 15 years later, dude escapes, knows how to drive a car, and
That's what I'm thinking.
going back to his childhood home to exactly. I don't know if he's getting revenge or what the actual thing is. He's just kill happy.
He was mad because everybody abandoned him.
That's what it is. He just had abandonment issues and goes back to his house. It's not the same.
Yep.
Where everybody go, yeah, I'd be a little tore up too. So let's get into Halloween.
I cannot wait.
So starts things off, in real life, John Carpenter directed a film called Assault on Precinct 13. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yes, definitely.
Love it. Like, I didn't think I'd like it as much as I did. I remember I bought it a few years ago, tossed it in, and I was just like, holy shit, like I really like. I mean, it's so raw. It's almost it's punk rock almost. Like it's just so great.
Yeah.
Producer saw that and was like, hey, we got a script. Now I've heard two different things. I don't know what's what. I know the script people were saying were initially called The Babysitter Murders. But then someone came forward and said, like, that was never the title. So I don't know what story to believe there. But either way, they had a low-budget script, and they handed it over to John Carpenter.
Yep.
Carpenter himself, he was, he was on board. And he even kind of waived a fee. He's like, I don't need to get paid for this. He goes, I know I can do this. And so all he asked was full creative control. Mm-hmm. And then he wrote, directed, and even scored the movie. At the end of the day, though, they did give him $10,000. And 10% of the final grosses or the profits, which we'll find out did pretty well. So
I would say that he
that's
pretty
the
banked.
deal to get. I mean, seriously, I would do that if I was a legit non-TPS director. If I actually was working for a studio, I think I'd be like, keep your money. Just give me give me some of the back end there. When that shit starts coming in, there's a famous story about Gregory Peck when he did The Omen. And, of course, he was a big actor. The Omen was a small movie, and they're like, well, we can't really pay you what you want. And he goes, I'll tell you what, I'll take, a little bit on the back end. And that became the biggest movie, at the time and everything. So it's just like, yeah, he came out richer than he would have. He would have took, whatever fee they was going to give him. So,
But Michael Myers' character, they paid him $25 a day.
Which, you know what, you are throwing me $25 a day to be Michael Myers.
But he was standing watching it happen, and they're like, "Hey, you know, put this mask on and put this, you know, jacket on and walk around. You don't even have to do anything. No lines.
No.
You don't even have to say anything. You don't even have to act like you're breathing. You just walk around all day."
The funny story is the guy who played Michael Myers, or the shape. There's two different people who Michael Myers. We'll get into that in a little bit. But the guy who actually played like the physical shape of him walking around for a majority of the movie, Nick Castle. It's funny. He asked Carpenter like, "What do you want me to do?" And Carpenter's like, "You know, what's my motivation? How do you want me to walk?" He's like, "I just want you to walk from here to here. Like, don't put no thought into it. Like, just be there." And which is brilliant direction because again, he's supposed to be the embodiment of just evil in a body. So it's just like, you know, the only direction he gave him was when he kills Bob, it sticks him up on the wall. Does the head tilt. And that's the only direction he gave, which I think is fucking brilliant. Because I mean, my God, everybody's copied the head tilt since then. I mean, it's a great thing. I've copied it. I've done it in my movies where I'm the killer and I'm just like, well, cock my head now. There's no reason behind me cocking my head. I'm just ripping off Halloween, you know. So
it shows the, you know, how like he was just not with society.
Yeah,
like, killing people was nothing to him.
He was detached. I mean, absolutely. You know, I usually kick this show off with this question. I guess we can backtrack for a second here. When was the first time you watched this? How old was you? How old was you? And what did you think about it the first time you watched it?
I probably didn't see it until the 90s, but it probably scared the shit out of me.
Okay.
It just has, like, I watched the other night at like midnight. I still got trembles. Like, oh, don't go. Don't do it. You know, it's like, come on, Lori. And you know, of course, she never listens.
She never does. No, she keeps doing it.
But it's one of those movies that you can just watch, you know, multiple times through the year and not get bored of it.
No, absolutely. This is probably my most watched of this series right here. I watch it once a year, regardless. You know, when I get around Halloween or whatever. But then there's even sometimes I'm just like middle of June, just like fuck it, let's throw some Halloween in. You know, it's just one of those movies.
Let's see if Lori gets caught this time.
see if she's smart enough to go next door. You know, she'll just be like, I'm not going there. First time I watched it, 90s as well. It had to be actually kind of late 90s. I want to say Halloween Revenge of... no, Curse of Michael Myers. You got it right there. 95. So it would have been around 95. In fact, I actually watched Halloween Curse of Michael Myers first, unknowingly. I remember, you know, again, when you're a kid, even if you've never seen horror movies, you know the biggies. You know Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger. Like, you know them. So I remember at this point, I'm really getting into horror films. Loving Nightmare on Elm Street, loving Friday the 13th. And so I was like, yeah, Halloween. And so I went to my grandmother's house, and this is the day of, you know, VHSs with, like, taped movies. So, you know, you'd have blank tapes of like 3 to 4 movies on them, you know. And she didn't write full titles out. Like, it drove me nuts. Like, I have to be a guy, I have to get everything labeled. And all it said was Halloween, so I was like, awesome. So I throw it in, and it's the 95 version. I don't know it. So I'm just watching it, and and don't get me wrong, and we ever talk about, you know, the Curse of Michael Myers, you know, I'll go into it more, but, you know, it was all right, but it wasn't what I thought it was. And so I was telling my grandmother, I was like, yeah, like, I don't know what the big deal about this one is. And she's like, oh, that's not the original. I was like, what? It's like, well, what was the original? And then she pulled out another one. It also just said Halloween on it. I was like, well, why don't you put fucking, you know. Anyways, watched it. Yeah, scared shit out of me. I remember actually one of the creepiest scenes in that movie when I was a kid was not even anything at night or spooky. It's the daytime when they're walking home from school and Laurie looks up and he's standing behind the bush just looking at him. And then whenever they look up, he's gone. Like, I don't know what it was about that. And then, of course, whenever she's in her room and looks outside and sees him stand there, behind the laundry. I don't know. It was just like most times with horror movies, it's always shadows. It's always at night. It's always creepy. And here, Carpenter was like literally showing you the boogeyman during the day, and it was still just as effective.
It's the face.
Yeah.
It's the non-emotional face.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Always that face, no matter what it is. You know, he could have blood dripping down his face. It's still the same look.
Yeah.
And you don't ever know where he's going to go because they do the camera switching.
Yeah.
And they'll pan to the left, they'll come back, and he's still standing there.
Yeah.
And then the third time they'll come back, and he's gone. It's like, it vanishes out of thin air.
I love that. Well, same thing, you know, when she's in school and she looks up and sees him. Again, broad daylight just staring at her, and then looks back up, gone. I always wanted to see, and they do this a little bit in Scary Movie, the comedy, like whenever they look and he's standing there and when she looks away, he turns around and runs off real quick. It's like, I always wanted to kind of see like Michael Myers do that.
Trying to fit into something to hide.
Well, I love that he's riding around with the mask on in broad daylight. It's like, bro, like take the mask off during the day. Like, you're going to draw a lot of attention to yourself.
Well, that just kind of shows like people didn't care back then.
No, they wasn't looking out for a psycho killer.
No, it wasn't. They weren't planning on some. I don't know. He looks like he's 6'5".
He looks big, yeah.
I mean, they play him as they do a lot of long distance shots
Force
that
perspectives,
makes him look very tall, which I think that makes a good killer.
No, absolutely, yeah. I mean, you got to have that intimidating factor. So we put a little bit of size to him on top of the blank face, the dark eyes, the devil's eyes.
They didn't want any emotion on the mask,
and they definitely they nailed that. So going back to they're making this movie, it's been said over the years that he got a lot of inspiration from Black Christmas. Mm-hmm. And did you ever watch the original Black Christmas?
Not the original. Okay.
No. Very solid. Definitely recommend it. One of my favorite Christmas movies. In fact, that's whereas Halloween I watch every year around October, I'll watch Black Christmas like every year around December. Like to me, like a lot of people just like Christmas Story. I'm like, I like Christmas Story. Don't get me wrong. Actually, same director. Little known fact right there. Bob Clark directed both Christmas Story and Black Christmas. But anyways, Black Christmas is just brilliant. And so that was done in '74, if I'm not mistaken. And so a lot of the POV shots of just the killer walking, you get that in this as well. And then of course just it's slashers, body count, and then. Granted, it's a holiday horror theme, but even like Bob Clark said, he never felt like Carpenter ripped him off because I guess he goes, it's just, he is set in Halloween. Yeah. He goes, it's horror, it's like, it is what it is. So I always kind of thought that was cool that he never took it personally. That's the thing is everybody's like, Halloween started the slasher thing. And it's like, well, technically Black Christmas did, but again, it wasn't as popular. So it didn't, it was more of a cult movie than, a mainstream film. So.
Well, Halloween was, I think, ahead of its time in '78. For what they did, for only having a $325,000 budget. That's all they had.
Oh, yeah.
So they had to do things in a week spurt.
Yeah.
Because they only had so many, it
was low budget filmmaking. Yeah. I mean, it really was. Even back then, it was low budget.
And Loomis was only over here from England for a week. Yeah. So they're like, okay, we got to do these shots in this, timeline.
Well, when we talked about before we started rolling, one of the funny things is you can tell it's shot California. It's green as shit, but all the leaves on the ground that was like paper leaves that they literally made or bought or whatever. But between takes they had to stop, get everything together. Yep. So I mean it really was and I'm not trying to jerk myself off here or whatever, but I've done underground filmmaking and it really does take a team that cares. Mm-hmm. If you're literally just they're not going to be. You ain't gonna make it far. You got to literally have a passion for filmmaking itself. So for these guys to kind of band together for no money almost at all, crazy scheduling, and then on top of that, working against the elements in a way, it's that's pretty impressive. So to get it done, how long they shoot it, 3-4 weeks, something like that.
So they did 4 weeks of prep, 4 weeks of shoot, and then 4 weeks of editing.
Okay, gotcha. So there you go, right there, 12 weeks right there total. So
and they had probably. One of the smallest but tight groups of people for a crew because it wasn't just one person did one thing. It was everybody put this movie together.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And that's the thing too. Like I said, that's another thing I've noticed just in the little experience I've had. It's a team effort. If you think for a second you're the director or writer and it's your movie, fuck you. Yeah. Seriously, believe me, you got to have a team of people, good friends, good professional people who are really wanting to put the work out there. And this is the best example of that with Halloween. It really is.
John Carpenter is probably my favorite producer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think he's a hell of a director. He's top notch.
He really always hear good things about it. He never did some.
I don't know. Did you ever?
Okay, I guess I didn't hear the bad things.
No. He's a bit of an asshole. I hear.
He is an asshole.
He's an asshole. Well, thing is, I think he's bitter because for all his movies, with exception of Halloween did great. A lot of his movies he didn't really get recognition until later. So he did The Thing, brilliant movie. No one give a shit. People crapped on it when it came out.
The Thing in the 70s?
Mm-hmm. No, the 80s. 80s? It came out, people crapped on it, and then it wasn't until later on when VHS was more of a thing that people were just oh, yeah, it's a classic. Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah.
Fucking love me some Big Trouble in Little China. I grew up on that. When it came out, bombed. No one cared about it. Just whatever. And people crapped on it. And then wait until years later, like Oprah's like, oh yeah, that's a good movie.
Yeah.
Same. And so it happens with it. And I think honestly, it just got to him. I think after a while, he's just like, why am I even trying? You know, Vampires, a good example. We talk about, you know, we weren't talking on the show, but you know, before you were sending me things about it. Same thing. Like came out. People just kind of like, and it was just like years later, people were like, yeah, it's a good movie. It's like, well, yeah, it's a good movie, but like I said, I don't. Like you said, he's ahead of his time. It was almost just like when he started off, he did really good, but then after that, it was just like he never got the recognition at the time. It wasn't until like years later, I was like, oh yeah, he's a master of horror. It's like, well, yeah, he is. Like, goddamn.
Well, he kept the franchise, which they weren't even planning to do it. A sequel. You know, it was, well, we're just gonna do this movie and that's it. And then it blossomed into freaking greatness.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
But not to have future plans. Why do you think that is? Why would they had such, you know, a low budget? I guess they thought they weren't really going to turn it in.
I mean, until it turned in that $70 million, they're just like, yeah, they're just like money. Well, you got to remember too, if you look at the dates there, you know, this came out in '78. The sequel didn't come out until '81. That was after Friday 13th in '80. Yeah. That technically, like, you know, this is like the first like modern slasher. Friday 13th is the one that took it and ran with it, and that's when slasher became super popular. So it's almost like even though Friday 13th ripped off Halloween, the producers was like, shit, that makes money. Halloween 2 right now, and that's what kind of happened right there. So I think that's probably the biggest reason why that went down like that. Like you said, he wasn't planning on it, and then when he did kind of think of like turning Halloween into a series, it was never meant to be the Michael Myers show. It was always meant to be like every movie is going to be a standalone whatever. No. Turns out it's like, well, no. Let's bring Michael Myers back for one more, and then we'll do a separate one. Yeah. And then that bombed horribly. And I think honestly, it's a good concept. It's just if you were going to do that, you should have done it right out the gate. You should have did part 2 and then try to do something wacky with part 3. But you know, hey,
yeah, because
what can you do?
Part 2 didn't come out until 3 years later. Yeah. So they kind of spread it out a little bit, and then they went back, you know, like 88, 89. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, let's take a break
exactly.
for a while.
Well, I mean, part 4 is, you know, Return of Michael Myers. They wanted to make sure you knew he's back. Like, no, none of the Season of the Witch yet, you know. So back to this one. Like you said before, you know, it's that blank look. He's evil incarnate. And that's the thing. It's like literally, you know, that was, you know, John Carpenter's envision from the beginning was like just unstoppable killing machine. He references, did you ever see Westworld?
Yes.
Okay. The Yul Brynner character, you know, the robot just keeps walking and killing. That was literally what he was like, I want that from Michael Myers, you know. And which is, you know, really awesome, you know, concept there. Lots of Psycho references in this movie right here.
Psycho was such a great movie.
Oh, it was awesome. And if anything, if you really want to get like down to it, you know, splitting hairs and whatever, Psycho's technically the original slasher. I mean, it's the grandfather of the slasher genre, if you will.
It's probably one of the founding starters.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. No, it definitely is. So with Psycho, you know, the character Sam Loomis was, you know, the main character or the main lead guy in that one, aside from Norman Bates, obviously. And that's where the name Loomis came from. And then, of course, the mother of Jamie Lee Curtis was Janet Leigh, who played in Psycho. Yep. She was the lead in that.
Was she get naked in that video?
Well, I mean, because it was 1968, so I mean, I'm sure she had pasties on or whatever. So I mean, they weren't going to go full out nudity. I'm not sure if she was nude on set or not. But.
Halloween was not shy in showing boobies.
No, definitely was not. Ghost got your tongue, Bob.
Yeah.
PJ Souls, love her. So, anyways, and not just that. I didn't know this at all until I a little bit of my research. I ain't gonna lie, I did a little research before this. I have come in here with some like fact-based research, but usually the trivia stuff I already know up here. Yeah. But this is one I actually looked at or found out was the character of another Hitchcock homage in the movie Rear Window. There's a character named Lieutenant Thomas Doyle, and so Tommy Doyle got his name from that character right there. I thought that was kind of interesting there. So we mentioned earlier Donald Pleasance came over here from the UK, iconic in this role of Dr. Sam or Dr. Loomis. And when he comes over, initially he wasn't offered a role. Initially, it was Peter Cushing, who is a huge horror actor in the UK, the Hammer films. Thing is, he just came off of Star Wars. Kind of a prick move, but he's just like the pay was beneath him.
Yeah.
Not going to do it. And I'm like, don't get me wrong, I guess, but it's like, again, are you in it? Because he's a horror actor. Like, he was with Hammer forever. After that, he did low budget horror films. So it's just like, really? You're going to pull the money card now? I guess Star Wars went to his head. I don't know.
Do you think he regrets it now?
I don't know if he did or not, but the funny thing was after he got rejected, they asked Christopher Lee, who was another Hammer guy, and he turned down. I'm not sure what his reason was. I don't know if it was money or not, but he said later on that he, as the biggest regret of his career, was turning down Halloween. And he even told John Carpenter and Deborah Hill that, like, God, that's the worst mistake I ever made was turn this down.
Can never do
And
it again.
it's like, Mike, yeah, that's the thing. It's like, I don't know. I always feel like you hear stories like that before, or, other times where people just give up on a role, give someone else, and it becomes huge. And it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know. Part of me is like, I mean, if you don't like it for whatever reason, then would I really want you there in the first place? Because would you have brought the performance down? Would you have done whatever? So I mean, really, I guess it worked out for for the best. Donald Pleasance came in and
They were scared.
Yeah.
It was in the independent film. They didn't think, okay, I'm going to go do all this work, and it's going to be a trash, and somebody's going to have the DVD 20 years later.
No idea it's going to be the pop culture phenomenon it would turn into. Of course, we already mentioned Jamie Lee Curtis, brand new on this one. Nancy Loomis, her whole thing. She was actually an actress in Assault Precinct 13, so she already worked with John Carpenter, prior to this, anyways. PJ Souls, lovely PJ Souls.
Who I thought was a guy at first. I'm sorry, PJ.
She was in her big claim to fame before this was Carrie. She was the I can't think of her name. Carrie. She wore the red cap the whole time in that movie though. She's the one that gets blasted in the ear with the fire hose at the end, and in real life ruptured the eardrum there. So yeah, she's a horror soldier. Like she fucking
That's a true.
You seen Devil's Rejects, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I love Devil's
The
Rejects.
mother who Captain Spaulding steals the car from, like knocks her off a headbutt, and then that's PJ Soul. Like that was her, years later. So kind of cool to see that she came back for that.
Don't you think he's fucking funny?
Don't you think I'm fucking funny? Don't you like us clowns? Don't we make you laugh?
I love that movie.
Oh, it's brilliant. So we mentioned already that Nick Castle was the Shape. However, we did have another person portray him in the unmasking scene at the end. Actor named Tony Moran. Another guy who's just a major douche. Like I don't know what his deal is. If you ever get a chance, like look up like YouTube interviews with this guy. He just shits on this franchise, but yet he has no problem taking the fans' money for pictures and autographs. And it's just like Jesus Christ. Funny little tidbit here. This guy Tony Moran. He's actually the brother of Aaron Moran, who played Joni Cunningham in Happy Days. So,
what?
Kind of an odd little trivia.
How does that make?
Exactly. Like, what kind of cosmic way does that even work?
Now I got the Happy Days song in my head.
And then, of course, the last person kind of round out this cast in a voice-over role or voice-only role, John Carpenter played the voice of Paul on the phone with Annie. So. Oh, excuse me. I just downed like an entire 64-ounce thing of soda, so now I just got like massive heartburn. We are not professional here at the Kings of Scream podcast. I'm sorry.
I am drinking A&W today. So I'm staying off caffeine.
So, oh man, A&W cream soda. Oh my god, I love that shit. If anybody from the A&W cream soda factory is listening to us, we will take. We'll sponsor that shit. Sponsor us. We will pimp that shit out all day long.
If you come to my house and you put one of the taps in,
I'll
give you royalties.
No doubt. Shit, we'll pay you to sponsor it. My God. So, anyway, we talked about the Halloween mask itself. You know the story, I'm sure, about what the mask is. You want to tell us where the mask came from?
Where it came from, it was shit. I had this
Captain.
Captain. Yes. But they didn't want to really change a whole lot.
No.
It's like, okay, 2 holes. Let's
widen it out, bring the hair out a little bit,
Yeah.
paint it, straight white. Well, I guess the way the story went was.
But what was Captain Kirk doing wearing that mask?
Every time I watch like Star Trek, I'm just like, why is he wearing a Michael Myers mask? Like, what the hell? What's Michael Myers doing on this ship here? I guess originally when they did the mask, Carpenter just gave us a few bucks, said, hey, go down to the store, get something. And they only had 2 masks down there. They had this really crazy, scary clown mask, and then they had this William Shatner mask, and they're just like, well, what do you want us to do?
Yeah.
I guess they tried the clown mask, and it didn't look creepy. It just came off, I guess, too cliche. They're just like, and then they're like, well, let's do something with the thing. So they, widened the holes, brought the hair out, and then painted it white. And then they said, like, as soon as he came out on set that, everybody just kind of went silent. They're like, holy shit, like, that's the mask.
And people actually, like, that played in the movie, they had actually reported that they were had nightmares.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it.
Him walking, in the dark towards you with just the mask you can see.
Oh, so a funny little side story here. We went to I forget which haunted house it was. We went to a haunted house one time, and my uncle, he's a huge Halloween fan as well, but just a huge horror movie fan in general. But that's like his one fear. Like the guy ain't scared of anything else, but for some reason when it comes to Michael Myers, he just freaks out. And two stories. One, we're walking down this long corridor, and there he is at the end, and it's like strobe light going down, and he's walking toward us, and like my uncle just freaks out. The second was Fear Fair in Seymour, Indiana. I'll definitely give them shout outs. One of the best haunted houses out there. This was the Rob Zombie version though, so not quite the same thing, but they had like the whole house built up right there, and you had to walk through it. And I just remember you can hear the music playing, and you're like, oh shit, we're in Halloween world now. And we turn, and I look, and in the window, he wasn't there a second ago, but he's in there staring back at me. And I jumped, but my uncle was immobile, like couldn't move. And this dude, like, I mean, if you see this guy, the dude, he's tall, he's in great shape. He's actually a guard at a prison or a jail. Like the guy, you could handle himself, but man, when it comes to like Michael Myers, nah, he's done. He's out of it, So
I actually, the movie Hush.
Oh, I have not seen that yet.
It has the mask.
Yeah, no, I've seen the mask. Yeah, solid white.
That stuff, that right there, I cannot watch that movie because, I mean, even the Halloween movies still give me fear because
get to you a little bit.
It's the blank look. It's scary because you don't know what emotion they are having underneath the mask. There's just no way of telling.
Yeah, no.
Which makes it the fact that it's like, okay, he never really had any emotion killing people.
No.
Which made it one of the best killers that I think hides. The way he hides but how do they fit his big ass in closets?
He's one of those guys. He's stealthy like a ninja, so he has that years of training inside that sanitarium. When he learned how to drive that car is also when he learned how to hide in closets, and everything. So, anyways, of course, Carpenter also did the music, which is honestly one of the best horror scores ever. I love, because you get the typical like da 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 da. Like that's the iconic one. But there's so much other. Like I just love like the bom 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 bom. Like it just throughout, or when it starts to pick up that it's the key. And then it kicks into I don't know. This is one of the I don't do horror instrumentals very often. Like I love it with the movies, but I don't really But this is one of those I can probably, if I ever had the soundtrack of just a score, I could probably listen to it just in my car driving around. It is just that good, very atmospheric, and it's so basic. Like when Carpenter talks about it on the credits, I forget he credits it to like. I don't know, like the something Philharmonic Orchestra or something like that. It's like he has a kind of like made up name to it, but it was just him on a keyboard, and it's like it's the whole score. But it's just like it fucking worked, man. Like it's just so
that
good.
sound turned into one of the most iconic sounds to ever.
I mean, it really is. I mean, it seriously is. Like to me, like
there's a lot of people that can say there's a lot of sounds that made movies. Mm-hmm. This sound did not only just make this movie.
Yeah.
But it made Halloween fucking scary.
No, absolutely. Yeah, not only does it fit the movie, not only does it kind of elevate the movie, it's a scary fucking... Like, as soon as you hear that, you already get the image in your head like, oh shit, like it's Halloween.
He's around.
He's around,
because that was one of the key things that was cool, though, was when you heard... He didn't immediately show up.
Yeah.
It's like you kind of had to, like, watch out
it's
for him.
It's almost like Jaws in a way. You hear that, dun, dun, it's like, oh shit, you're not seeing the shark. It's like, but he's on his way,
And somebody's going to die.
So, opening weekend, this thing busted out 1.3 million, which, really good considering it only was made for 300,000 something, Yep. It would go on to gross 47 in the U.S., 26 internationally, and 70 million worldwide on that. So, total. So, again, on a budget of less than $1 million to go over 70 of that, my God, that's insane right there.
They should have charged Europeans more.
They probably did, actually. Who knows? But anyways, this became the highest-grossing independent film of all time when it came out, which is something I noticed. Like horror does quite a bit. Like it seems like whenever that record gets broken, initially it was we talked about on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yep. They broke it first, and here it comes a few years later. This one breaks it. So
independent back in that day was a scary word.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Because
I
you
mean,
had nobody to back you up.
no, but it's also what's scary about too is like with like Paramount or Fox or whatever, they kind of controlled what you put out.
Yeah.
Not always. Now some of them were kind of lenient and cool, but for the most part, they're just like, "Well, give us your script. We'll see if we can do this." And I'm like, you gotta change this. I don't like that. You gotta take that out. Put this. And whereas an independent was like, no, like nobody was really monitoring that shit, so you didn't know what you was gonna get. But with something